Hello, I am the Irish guy, and I thought we were done with this. I thought the name Graham Potter was about as relevant in current news circles as anyone off Geordie Shore. I realise it is the month of Christmas. And yeah, right now, the TV guide likes to constantly shove Pottermania down our throats. I mean, especially those creepy guys who are banned from parking near primary schools, and yet weirdly seem to prefer the Hogwarts films before the actors hit puberty. Yeah, I mean, I've got a strange uncle who has a photo of a 12-year-old Neville Longbottom on his wall. Well, Graham Potter, G. Potts. Is this a joke? If I'm a Manchester United fan, then right now I am terrified by all the talk surrounding Jim Ratcliffe seizing a minority control in the club because apparently his company, Ineos, their first choice to replace Erik Ten Hag, once he gets the boot, is Potter. This weedy middle-aged bookworm who probably goes to bed tucking into a Moroccan vegan donut with sugar sourced from a Hungarian sheep's tongue. This snivelling skinny sausage. Someone who was swallowed whole by the chaos of Chelsea. You really think he's the answer to the problems at Old Trafford? Lads, I know what you're thinking.
Oh, it's fine. Ten Hag isn't getting sacked anyway.
Newsflash. Name a single boss inside the last 10 years who was under massive pressure at a big Premier League club and managed to avoid the sack. They always get the boot eventually. It's not if they get sacked, it's when. All of them. I mean, what's the alternative? Ten Hag knuckles down, wins a few league titles and eventually quits in 5 years. When Potter is now working as a librarian in Shepherd's Bush, an ex-millionaire who's now in his mid-50s, and begging Mason Mount if he can borrow a tenner on WhatsApp. No, Ten Hag will be gone, most likely inside the next year. And it's going to be Potter. Jim wants him. Lads, the only time the names Ratcliffe and Potter should be in the same sentence in the news is when Daniel is getting sectioned for killing the next person who rudely asks him for a selfie whilst he's trying to enjoy his lunch. Honestly, that poor bloke probably can't even tuck into a half-cooked baked potato in Weatherspoons without some brace-faced nerd asking him to autograph her Deathly Hallows tattoo on her chin. But Ratcliffe, he tried to hire Potter at Nice. Although Graham clearly seems to hate the idea of living in France because he rejected Leon too. To be fair, I thought at the time that this man's career was suffering from his wife having a severe allergy to the whiff of croissants, and that if she was to even smell one, she'd just become a vegetable for the next 20 years. I thought it was something that drastic or severe because in no way would a guy who spent 7 years working at Östersunds in Sweden ever turn down a European giant like Leon. I mean, back when he was studying emotional intelligence at Leeds University, in between working as a technical director for the Ghana's women team, in between stuffing his face with chicken nuggets and swigging vodka from a shoe on student nights out down the pub. Yeah, Leon were winning 7 league titles in a row. They would have been a dream job. But to be fair, despite having a filthily talented squad, featuring the likes of Alexander Lacazette, Ryan Cherky, Truman Tolisso, Dejan Lovren, and Jacob Bryan, they are rotting bottom of the French league, so maybe Potter was clever to give that one a swerve. Instead, it's now Fabio Grosso whose management reputation is being slowly lowered into a grave filled with poo. Potter at Old Trafford would be a disaster. This man who's already failed at Chelsea. If Potter was given that gig now, it would be the second time since Fergie quit that Manchester United immediately rushed to hire the guy who was sacked by Chelsea just 6 months before. At least in 2016 you could understand this. Jose Mourinho was still a glittering world star magnetic manager, someone who was the ready-made heir to Sir Alex Ferguson. I mean, Mourinho cried when he didn't get the job in 2013. Trust me, if you'd given him that Premier League title winning squad as it was, filled with born leaders and winners with high standards like Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Patrice Evra, Ryan Giggs, Wayne Rooney, Robin van Persie, instead of asking him to tolerate Pogba and Jay Lings, dabbing on Snapchat in the canteen whilst he's trying to eat his toast in peace, and yeah, Man United would have dominated for years. But picking up another manager who Chelsea binned off, it's not a good look. If Manchester United were going to hire a sacked Chelsea coach, then Thomas Tuchel, Antonio Conte, Carlo Ancelotti, I mean, they wouldn't all work at Old Trafford, no, but that is the caliber of guy they should have been targeting. Not the guy who is statistically Chelsea's worst permanent manager since Danny Blanchflower in 1979. Lads, Manchester United are being linked with a guy who this very week was being forced to turn down Stoke. At least when they hired a mid-table sludge packer like Moyes. At least he'd been linked with the gigs of Tottenham and Chelsea that year, actual top 4 rivals. He had hype. Stoke are 19th in the championship. I actually massively respect their ambition. I mean, bidding off a skinny Humpty Dumpty and Alex Neil and then asking Potter to join? Someone who 6 months ago was literally the 4th best paid manager in Chelsea's entire history. Imagine how long that phone call with Stoke would have lasted. He'd probably be like,
Do you know who I am?
It must be a bit like asking Beyonce if she'd be up for signing a 9-month contract to sell pizzas in Wigan. You're probably more likely to convince Tom Cruise to spend a year sleeping at the foot of your bed and agreeing to marry your teddy bear. Potter must have hated that phone call. Imagine his wife asking who that was.
Oh, who was on the phone? Inter Milan? Juventus? Bayern Munich?
No. Stoke. That phone call was probably more annoying than being pestered by nerds at Vodafone trying to sell you a flower pot. I don't know. I don't know what they want. I never answered the phone. For all I know, they've kidnapped my mum. But yeah, last year, his dreams came true coaching on Champions League nights. I mean, he'd never even seen a Champions League game live in the flesh. Not even as a fan. Lads, he was less qualified for that gig than Thug did, who has probably experienced more Champions League nights than even Fernando Torres. But yeah, one minute he's Chelsea boss, the next he's having to explain why he doesn't want to coach a squad featuring Kieran Clark, Wesley, and Sean Wright Phillips' son, Ozzy. I don't know why, but having Ian Wright as a granddad, having Sean as your dad, I would imagine DiMarzio probably has a bit of an ego. Ozzy, if Graham took the Stoke job, if he dared try to discipline this child born into ridiculous wealth, oh no, DiMarzio's not going to say, oh yes, boss. No, he's more likely to say,
Oh, Potter, wait until my father hears about this.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to make that Malfoy pun. I could be really unfair. For all I know, DiMarzio could be a great kid. I think it's funny how the footballing consensus has flipped on Potter. When he was working miracles with Brighton, everyone, and I mean everyone, was talking about him as if he was the second coming. Without a doubt, the best English manager in the world. Ozzy, forget about Eddie Howe. For a moment there, in 2021, everyone thought the two best English managers on the planet were Graham Potter and Steven Gerrard. Ozzy, what at Rangers? I remember when Gerrard was linked to the glamorous new money gig at Newcastle. He had more hype than Howe. He had the sort of hype that Xabi Alonso has now, a superb European tactician who's surely going to replace Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool.
Because I am going to make the case that Graham Potter is not only massively underrated, but he's arguably the best manager in the Premier League.
Everyone loved this man, but I was the only one who saw him what he was. Just a hideously dull average boss, like looking at Gareth Southgate in a spoon. Lads, his win percentage record at Brighton was significantly worse than his Chelsea nightmare. A win percentage of 31.11. He had his team winning the possession stats, yes, but he had nearly 30 1-1 draws. I mean, De Zerbi has gone in there and has a win percentage of 48.39. I mean, De Zerbi has Brighton qualifying for Europe, topping the Europa League group, beating former European Champions League Ajax and Marseille. All Potter did was finish 15th, 16th and 9th. He failed to get Swansea promoted from the Championship, was sacked at Stamford Bridge sitting 11th in the league in April, having given £400 million worth of extra players to an already Champions League winning squad. Being sacked 7 months into a 5-year contract is embarrassing. It's like when David Moyes was binned off by Man United just 9 months into an 8-year deal. It's been like getting married to someone. All your family and friends are delighted for you, and then you get divorced after 3 weeks. When your wife realizes that she's actually sick of the fact that you snore like a fat rhinoceros, that your breath smells like a baboon's burp, and that you choose to cut your own hair over a toilet bowl. When Potter was given that lucrative Chelsea gig, his wife was probably picking out multi-million-pound mansions on Gumtree. Yeah, I mean, it's a year later, and if they have blown through all that would-be money already, then for all we know, the Potter is going to be forced to move in with his mum. For all we know, he might have to resort to sneakily robbing Freddos from corner shops, just casually sneaking them up his sleeve in order to feed his kids. Radcliffe is obsessed with Potter, but why? Why is he so in love with this Chelsea flop? Look, I'm not saying the Potter should give up, ride off into the sunset and retire. No, there is a place for him in football. Knitting the corner flags and wiping up the puddles of stick on the concourse floor. Okay, no, I'm joking. No, I think the most obvious Premier League job that makes sense for Potter right now is Crystal Palace. Steve Parish is a man who prides himself in giving managers a second chance when they are deemed one of the biggest jokes in the world. I mean, he hired Sam Allardyce weeks after he was a national laughingstock, having been fired by England after a month. He welcomed Roy Hodgson with open arms from the wilderness a year after he'd helped England be embarrassed at Euro 2016 by Iceland. I don't think anyone else was going to give Roy a job. Honestly, even to this day, whenever Roy walks past that cheap shop selling frozen sausage rolls, he's probably this close to having a panic attack on the floor. Tony Pulis was given the Crystal Palace job after he'd embarrassingly and ungratefully been sacked by Stoke. I mean, Alan Pardew was rescued from a monster campaign from Newcastle fans to get him out of the club. People literally holding sackpardew.com banners after every match. He'd had them in the Europa League the year before. Oh yeah, and Frank de Boer was given the Palace job after being embarrassingly sacked after just 14 games at Inter Milan. I mean, to be fair, Palace compounded that by sacking him after 5, which has pretty much wrecked his career ever since. But yeah, Palace like appointing blokes who are at a massively low ebb in their lives. It seems to be that if you're not on the brink of bursting into tears during your job interview, Parish doesn't want to know. So Potter at Palace, yeah, fine. Brilliant. Stay in your lane, mid-table club. Like how Moyes was a national laughingstock at Old Trafford, who birthed the original Andy Tate. Not the bald one, the
Fellaini! Moise! Clever!
You get the idea. But Moyes is back in his comfort zone at West Ham and doing really well. To be fair, I do think Potter would be better suited to working abroad again, somewhere like Ajax. I am being very generous here, but why not? To be fair, they've recently recovered from a nightmare start to the season. Well, come on, they conceded 13 goals and finished 3rd in a winnable Europa League group. They're 5th in the Eredivisie. Replacing Ten Hag at Manchester United would be a disaster move, but trying to replicate Ten Hag's work at Ajax, that would be the challenge. It's a European monster who need a new manager. I mean, they're under their 3rd interim boss of the season, and it ain't even Christmas. I remember when Newcastle did that, and they wind up relegated. I mean, come on, surely there's no bigger sign that Potter is right for this job than the fact that their previous interim boss was literally called Hedwig. I mean, come on! Potter can rebuild his reputation overseas, and then maybe come back to the Premier League in 5 years' time to take charge of Tottenham. Replacing Ange Postecoglou, who will be in his mid-60s, and will probably have all the energy of Fred Flintstone at the gym. Or maybe Everton have shown that they've really wanted Potter in the past, so in 5 years' time, maybe that could be a good fit. Him at Goodison Park. That could work, but Potter at Old Trafford would be another Ollie. That's all he would be. This Man United squad would eat him alive. I mean, it would be like trying to babysit the girl off The Exorcist. I mean, he couldn't even handle Chelsea's egos, which is worrying because I don't even think the squad is that toxic. They just seem like a bunch of harmless Instagram playboys. Who are the bad eggs in there? But at Old Trafford, it's far more insidious. You can name several bad eggs. I wouldn't even trust Donny van de Beek. This squad is still littered with Pogba's fingerprints. Sorry, United, but hiring Potter would be stupid beyond belief. Anyway, that's the video. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below what you think. Let me know. Enjoy the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe as always. I'll talk to you in a while.